This is Tell Me What It's Like, a show about life-changing decisions, extraordinary challenges, and defining moments. I'm Stacey Rain. Laurie Jacobson was 43 when she realized something had to change. She'd been in a dark place for years, she said, married to what she describes as an emotionally abusive husband, and was feeling completely alone. Then she made a decision that seemed radical for a Jewish woman. She booked a visit to a Buddhist monastery and ended up spending 22 days there. Those days changed her life. Laurie, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Stacey. It's a pleasure to be with you.
I am thrilled to have you and very excited to learn about 22 days in a Buddhist monastery. But first, I want to start with how on earth did you end up there? Let's back it up a little bit and talk about where you were in life and how you ended up finding yourself at a Buddhist monastery.
Well, where I was up in the mountains of Pennsylvania. I was renting an old farmhouse, living there with my then husband, in a very isolated spot. We were not getting along, and he became very emotionally abusive after some time. It was a gradual process, but he was mostly verbally abusive, very critical. I didn't have friends or family around me. I got very depressed. I was supporting us because he refused to work. And I just was terribly unhappy, and I was looking for ways to just make myself feel better. I tried many conventional therapies. I went to counselors. I read self-help books. I had Reiki treatments. I tried all these things and nothing worked. So one day, strictly out of desperation, I went to a Buddhist monastery. It happened to be in West Virginia, of all places. And I was attracted to go there because I'd always been interested in Buddhism. The Buddha says that there is a way out of suffering. So I thought, what do I have to lose? I will just go there and I'll do whatever they tell me to do, because I was in such emotional pain and willing to try anything. And it's funny because I found out about this monastery because I happened to pick up a pamphlet at a coffee shop. And that's how I found it. This was way before the days of internet searching and Google searching. And I just happened upon it. And thank goodness I did, because I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because you said you went there. It was because you found a pamphlet. So was there a number? Can you call them?
Yeah. It was just one of those little threefold pamphlets. It said that this was the monastery. It held various retreats. You could sign up to go for a retreat, and they had their contact information. They had a secretary. I did it all by phone. And the best part about it was that this monastery happened to be a Theravada Buddhist monastery. That's one of the traditions of Buddhism. And because of that, in that tradition, they do not charge any fees for these retreats. So it's all based on donation. They ask, because the Buddha originally did not accept, money. He just gave his teaching freely, and you could just make a donation. So that fit my budget perfectly, because I did not have money back in those days. And so it all worked out nicely for me.
Yeah. And it ended up being the first retreat you booked. You said it was 16 days. Do I have that right?
I think it was 15 or 16 days. And
Okay.
remember, this was a long time ago. But what was really cool for me was that the retreat was originally supposed to only be a week, a 7-day silent retreat. About halfway through that retreat, a huge snowstorm came, and the head monk told us about it in advance. Now we didn't get any news. We weren't allowed to look at phones or watch TV or anything. So we were alerted, hey, there's a big snowstorm coming. We're in the mountains of West Virginia. And if you need to get someplace, I would advise you to leave now,
Mm.
or else we don't know when you're going to get out. So at that point, about halfway through the retreat, I could feel something was starting to happen to me. And
Mm.
I did not want to leave. So I was like, I am not going anywhere. I am
Wow.
staying through this snowstorm. And we continued the retreat, and eventually we had to grab shovels and dig our way out. So I ended up staying much longer than the 7-day retreat. It was probably about 15 or 16 days on that
Oh, I
one.
see. Okay.
And but I was still there and I was still meditating even after the retreat was over, because something just kept bubbling up inside of me, and I wanted to see it through. I could tell it was taking me somewhere, and I just had to continue until I knew what it was trying to tell me.
That's fascinating. Had you
Yeah.
experienced anything like that before, or was that a new feeling to know, okay, this is something's going on here?
Never in my life had I experienced anything like this. It was
Mhm.
so transformational, and I saw it through until I had this insight during my last meditation that was just so wonderful and freeing, and, I had been experiencing blissful moments before then, but, I did gain valuable insight, and then I knew it was time for me to go back home.
Okay. So when you say you'd had some insight before that, this was even at the retreat, not
Yeah.
prior.
Oh, just at the retreat. Just at the retreat.
So truly life-changing.
Oh, absolutely.
To go back before,
Mhm,
you're in the coffee shop, you see this pamphlet, you think
mhm.
this is the answer. I mean, it's kind of a radical answer. But you said you tried all of these other ways to make yourself feel better. Had you been talking to your husband about it at that point? Did you say, I think I want to go do this, or did you keep this a total secret?
No, I he knew about it. I expressed my desire to go, and he said fine. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't, in fact, he's like, "Good, I'll get rid of you for a while." I mean,
Oh,
it was that kind of a
yeah.
relationship. He liked to be alone. He didn't I always felt that he never wanted me around.
Yeah.
And so he didn't have any problem if I took off somewhere. Um but just to comment on what you said, I didn't really think this was the answer. I
Oh,
just saw it as something to try. I didn't think anything was gonna happen. I mean, I thought the chances of anything happening that would help me, feel better at this monastery, the chances were so slim, but I had to try.
yeah.
I had to try, and I thank goodness I did.
Yeah. And it didn't cost you anything except time, which is interesting. And it's
Right.
in I thought it was interesting. It was in West Virginia. I guess when I
Yeah.
first heard of your story, I thought you'd gone off to India or something, but it was not that far from home.
No.
And there's a Buddhist monastery there. That was a little bit of a shock to me, I guess.
It's a shock to a lot of people because when I'm talking to people and I just generally say I was at a Buddhist monastery, the first question they always ask is like, "Oh, where was it?" And I
Yeah.
didn't realize that, most people think you go off to Tibet or something, but or India, but no, there is a working Buddhist monastery in West Virginia. I'm not going to say the name,
Hmm.
but there are monasteries in the United States and abroad that people can just go and experience what it's like to be among the monks and experience their daily life. And it's really amazing because you do feel like you're in a different world. The outside world is just gone for a while, which is pretty cool because all you have is yourself and your mind, and lots of quiet and I won't even say reflection, but just sort of the dropping away of all the normal chatter of your mind that keeps
Mhm.
you distracted or just, worried or anxious. All that sort of just drops away when you experience their daily lives.
Mhm. I was thinking as you were saying, "Oh, you just have your mind and your thoughts," and it for a lot of people, that'd probably be really scary.
Well, the things settle down. The mind is always full of all these thoughts, and actually, the brain is wired for negativity. So many negative thoughts are like shooting into your mind at any given time. But when you meditate, especially for long periods of time, the mind gets quiet, and maybe I there's a difference, I think, between the mind and your thoughts.
Mhm.
So maybe it's better to say all the thoughts sort of quiet down, and you're left with just the mind being focused on really whatever you want to focus it on. During meditation, your mind is focused on your in breath and your out
Mhm.
breath. But once once that happens and the mind just settles down, then it's everything becomes so clear because you're so locked in the present moment, and that's all that exists is the present moment. So the thoughts just sort of are all on the back burner, not forefront in your mind, and you're just sitting in this very clear space where you can see things with a non-judgmental mind.
Right. Well, let's I guess back up a little bit
Mhm.
and just have you define what is a Buddhist monastery? What is this place that you went to?
Well, again, different traditions will practice differently. The tradition that was at the monastery I went to, again, it's called Theravada. It's the oldest tradition in Buddhism. And a typical day would be they wake up very
Yikes.
early. And I know I was worried about that. I was like, oh my God. Because, when you're depressed and
Yeah.
everything, you tend to not want to get out of bed. So that was my
Mm.
first concern is, am I going to be able to wake up this early? And you're supposed to bring an alarm clock, which I did, but they also sound the gong to wake you up, and you're up like before dawn. And I have to say that that is absolutely the most magical time of the day to be
Mm.
awake. I mean, I ended up looking forward to that early morning meditation. I was up at like 4:30 in the morning some mornings,
Mhm.
because I couldn't wait to get up and just sit and feel that rising energy of the day. It's just a magical, wonderful time. So that's how it starts. You wake up with the dawn, and you'll have maybe a cup of tea, but you're quiet, and then you go into the meditation hall. And of course, if you have a nice meditation hall, that really enhances the whole ambiance of what you're doing. There are cushions on the floor. I'll try and set the stage for you. There's
Mhm.
like cushions on the floor, high arch ceilings, a big Buddha statue up on the altar, set in front of a pretty stained glass window. So it's very, very awe-inspiring. No matter, what religion you practice, you could
Mhm.
say it's almost church-like, it's sort of majestic in a way. But it was not huge. It was small, it was cozy, the meditation hall, but just as soon as you enter, you just feel this relaxed yet magnificent energy. And so you'll do, at least in this monastery, you did about maybe, I think, a little over an hour of meditation. Then you would leave the meditation hall and you would file out single file and again, quietly, silently, down the hall, and then you'd go into the room where they serve the meals. In this monastery, they only serve 2 meals a day, breakfast and lunch, because in the Theravada tradition, monks are not allowed to take food after 12 noon.
Mm.
So you get fairly big breakfast and a nice big lunch. And what was really cool, and again, I described this in the book, was that once everyone is seated in the dining hall, the monks do a formal procession into the kitchen, and they with their bowls, and they take their food first. So, you're watching the procession. They come out of the kitchen, they sit on their, on the platform, and then we have a little recitation, a little chant that they lead, and a very beautiful loving kindness discourse, which we read. And then we have our breakfast, all in silence. And then after breakfast, you're back in the meditation hall for another session. And then you break for lunch. The only free time we had during the retreat was we had about an hour after lunch. We were all assigned a chore to do, or we could choose a chore to do, and you're supposed to do your chore. And I would always take a walk after I did my chore. I love to walk. And so I would take a walk and come back. And again, there'd be more meditation in the afternoon. And then to end out the day, one of the monks would give a talk. And they called it a Dhamma talk. So that was really interesting, because he would talk about one of the Buddha's teachings, or give a lesson, or share some wisdom, and that would help you. You know that just helped. That just sort of complemented the meditation. So you're meditating, but yet you're getting infused with some wisdom and some teaching. Occasionally, in the afternoon, they would have an optional gathering in a small room you could attend, where the monks would answer any questions you might have, or elaborate on a teaching. And I always attended those, because I told myself when I went to this retreat, I said, Laurie, you're going to do every single thing they tell you to do, whether it's wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, if yoga is optional, Dhamma talk is optional, you just do everything. And I did. And it was wonderful.
It sounds, exceptionally unique, but also like a really interesting time of reflection. I want to go back to when, you filled out this, or you called the pamphlet, the number on the pamphlet, you've made your reservation, you show up. So I'm guessing you drive into West Virginia, you show up at the monastery, and you walk up to the door.
Oh,
yeah. I kind of want to be in that moment with you when you arrive there. So you've kind of you've explained the day, but I'm sitting here thinking, well, how do you even know what to do the whole time? So let's start back where you began.
Okay, very, very interesting. So what I did, which expanded my time there, was I arrived early. Okay, I got permission to come, I think it was 2 or 3 days before the retreat started. And that was because originally I was scheduled to leave a day early, because I had to go back home and work, because at that point I was running a vegetarian catering business, and I was going to miss a lot of work. But if I got home on the day that the retreat was going to end, I could fill orders for my customers. So that was the one thing my ex-husband insisted upon. You have to get back on this day to work, because, as I said, we really didn't have much money, and I was already missing a week of work by attending the retreat. So I was really upset. I was like, well, what if the last day of the retreat is the most important day? I can't miss the last day. But he laid down the law? And he's like, no, you have to be back. And I said, all right, well, I have time to come early. So I thought, well, at least if I come early, maybe that'll make up for, what I'd miss.
Hmm.
So I drive there, and I have to tell you, I was scared to death. I
Mm.
was scared to death. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know why I was doing this. I didn't know if it was going to work. And what if it didn't work? I mean, all this fear was coming up
Yeah.
days before I left, and I almost turned the car around when I was headed there. I was so scared, but something kept telling me, no, you got to go through with this. So I finally get there, and I pull into the parking lot, and there's two buildings. I didn't know which one to go into. I saw a little office sign. I'm like, all right, I'll go into the office and ask, what should I do? Because, I'm arriving early, so no one else, none of the other retreatants are there. And I open the door, and what I see is a monk in robes with a dust mask over his face, drilling something into the floor.
Oh,
So,
not what you'd expect.
not what I'd expect at all. So I'm like, oh, excuse me. Like, I just came here. Like, what am I supposed to do? And he just points across the way. And so I go into the other building, and I just find out that, I'm somebody, there's a big bulletin board, right? And it's like all the information is always on the bulletin board because they don't want you asking a lot of questions.
Yeah, it's a silent retreat, right?
Right. But this is actually before the silent retreat started. So there was some talking aloud. So I'm looking on the bulletin board, and I find my name, and I see that I'm assigned um, a, a room in a dormitory. So now I have to find out, like, where is this dormitory? Where am I supposed to go? Fortunately, there was one of the, I'll call them the lay people. There were several lay people living at the monastery beside the monks. So there was a person there, and I asked where to go, and he told me where to go. And, I brought my suitcase, and I settled in, and I found my room, but I was still really scared. And I said, well, what should I do? I was told just to help, when I registered, they said, yeah, you could come early, just help with chores. I said,
Hmm.
okay, so what do you want me to do? So I I was assigned to, vacuum certain hallways, and, just help with the dishes, cleaning up. So that's what I did for the couple of days. I just mixed into their routine. But one thing they did, I was so glad that I went early because they did not do this during the retreat, was when retreats are not in session, they have a devotional service,
Mm.
and they chant in Pali. And Pali is really a dead language, but it is the original language of the Buddha.
Wow.
And these chants, oh my goodness, wow. They were so powerful. I joined at first. I was like afraid to join in. You have a book and you can read like the transliteration of the words. I tried to follow it as best I could, but after several days, man, I was into it. I was chanting, and oh,
Mm.
it just like went right through my body, right up into my head. It was just wonderful, these chants. So I got to experience that.
Is that the
Mhm.
moment where you started to think, I'm not scared anymore?
That started to turn things around.
Yeah.
Yes, that started to turn things around.
And so it sounds like you spend a lot of your day in meditation. I mean, really, it's silent. You're not talking to anybody. You're quieting your own mind through all these meditations. And you said that you start to get some insights. And so I would
Mhm.
love to uncover what those were. What started happening for you over these days?
Okay, well, let me start by saying it really was a gradual process. Um, at first, it's, well, I started, and I didn't even realize how closed my heart had become. It just was so tight and closed. I guess after all those years of being abused, you just want to shut everything out. and you just don't want to open your heart to anything because you're so vulnerable and you get hurt so much. So you
Hmm.
close up. So this is really hard to explain, but I'm going to try. I do it much better in the book because I could think about it and edit myself. But it was almost like you start to feel something opening deep inside of you. Your heart starts opening. It's like almost like a flower bud that's really tight. And then you just start to feel the petals starting to open. You feel like something is happening and you feel very calm and you feel very, um, uh, oh, I don't know how to put it, just um, clear. You start to gain clarity and you start to see things not through your own eyes,
Hmm.
through Laurie's eyes. This was another big moment. Was one morning I woke up real early and I went into the bathroom and I started brushing my teeth, and it was like I was watching myself brush my teeth.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like you don't the the I, Laurie, me, sort of drops away, and you're just seeing everything as an observer,
Mm.
as a watcher, and that is so cool because if you're this, like, observer, you're not really, like, putting your judgment on anything. You're just watching it. You're not assigning, "Oh, this is I really like this. This is really good. This helps me," or, "Oh, I really don't like that. That's so unpleasant." You're just seeing things, and not placing your own ego into it at all. So and that was very blissful. I mean,
Hmm.
that just it's so freeing just to be watching and not reacting with any judgment or big emotion tied to it. It just is, like people like to say like, "Oh, it is what it is." But you don't really understand that
Yeah.
until that I consciousness starts dropping away.
And that happens because you've been silent and you've been in
And
meditation for so
meditation.
long.
Exactly, exactly, because that's what meditation does. You become just watching your thoughts and letting go of your thoughts. So you'll have a thought and you notice it, but you let it go. It's this constant letting go. And so eventually, that was one of the, you know, I won't call that wasn't the big insight, but that was something that happened to me that was so profound and so blissful. Oh, it's like, oh, now I can let go of this
Mm.
Laurie that keeps telling herself all these stories and gets herself upset about things and is running off into the future and living or,
Hmm.
reliving the past. I'm just watching life unfold around me, and isn't it wonderful?
Yeah. Had you ever meditated before?
Yeah, I tried meditating. Again, I was always fascinated by the Buddhist teachings, and I had read books, the Zen books and
Hmm.
Buddhist teaching books, and you can sit there in your bedroom on a pillow and set your timer, and I tried that, and it might make you feel a little better, but I think it was just the whole experience of being immersed in that place and
Hmm.
having all these other people around you doing the same things. And of course, the first time I set eyes on the monks, I was like, wow,
Mm.
you think they're like walking on clouds or something. That was my first impression. Of
Yeah.
course, that changed later on, and we can go into that later. But when you first get there, it's all so wondrous and awe-inspiring, and you're just so immersed in the whole experience. Now that is to say, I wouldn't discourage anyone from meditating at
Right.
home. I mean, there's great, even for 5 minutes, it's going to help relieve stress and help center you. But when you're immersed in that whole world, it can get to another level.
Mm. And you said you began to have insights and things became clear. What
Yeah.
were those insights? What became clear?
Okay, well, I'll try and explain this as best I can because you have to understand this is really an experiential thing, and that's why it took me so long to write this book because I had to find the right way to express what experienced in
Mhm.
words. So one of the characteristics in Buddhism is impermanence. And this was a big one for me. They would talk about impermanence in the Dhamma talks, and I was like, okay, what is that? Impermanence. Like, what is that really about? Well, it's easy to say everything changes. Yeah, everything changes. That's
Mhm.
that's true. Nothing ever stays the same. So you can understand that on a superficial level, but what happened to me was I got an insight, a very deep and profound insight into impermanence. And that's really what helped me um, leave my marriage.
Mm.
That was the ticket. When you can understand on a very deep level that if everything is always changing, what am I holding on to? Because
Mm.
it's going to be gone.
Mhm.
And when you realize that on this deep level, that, for some reason I was holding on to this abusive marriage, I couldn't let it go. I couldn't walk away. And now there's lots of reasons for that. And everyone stays for a different reason. And that's a totally different subject. But still, uh, what was I holding on to? Something that was really hurting me. And when I had this deep insight into the nature of impermanence, and I realized, well, everything's going to drop away. So there's really no sense in holding on to anything. And it gave me the freedom to say, I can just walk away from this. I don't need to keep holding on to this anymore.
Wow. And is that what you did?
Yep,
You came
that's what
home
I
and
did.
said, this is over?
Well, actually, what happened was I I had this insight into impermanence, and I went home, and I didn't leave that time. I didn't leave right away, but I still felt this wonderful freeing experience. And when I got home, I really didn't know what was going to happen. But when I got home, my husband took one look at me and said, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" Like he could just tell from my face that
Mm.
something had changed. And I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he says, "Your face is different." And I'm
Huh.
like, I know. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You're glowing."
Wow.
And I said, "Well, I can't explain it to you. You wouldn't understand. So I'm not
Yeah.
even going to try to explain it to you." But he knew that something had changed, and I thought maybe there was a chance, maybe there was a chance that he would come around again because, when I first met him, he wasn't this cruel, abusive man. I didn't marry that man, and I guess what happened was I had also, besides this feeling of impermanence, I also experienced such a profound change in my heart that I was so full of loving kindness and compassion.
Mm.
Um, I just had all this loving kindness towards all sentient beings, and one of the practices at the retreat was to send loving kindness to yourself and send loving kindness to all sentient beings, including your enemies.
Mhm.
And that's a really tough thing. And they say that's a really tough thing to do. If you can get to the point where you're sending loving kindness to your enemies or people you don't like, that's pretty transformational. So at first, of course, I couldn't send loving kindness to my ex-husband. I couldn't
Mhm.
do that. But eventually I started to feel compassion for him. oh my God, this poor man, he's suffering so much. I have to have compassion for him. And I think that was why I didn't go home and leave right away, because
Hmm.
I felt compassion for him and I felt some loving kindness for him. But the glow and the bliss wears off the longer you're away from, well, at least for me, as long as I was away from the monastery, and also I was back in that abusive environment, and things started getting bad again, and I knew I had to go back. I felt drawn to the monastery because that's the place I felt good and happy and whole.
Mm.
And I'll have to say, I did meet someone there who
Oh.
who happened to be the monastery cook at the time. I
Oh.
befriended him and he befriended me, and that really helped me as well. It helped, the meditation helped me, the talks helped me, the loving kindness meditation helped me, but also this man who I became friends with made me feel worthy and let me know that, yeah, I am lovable. You
Yeah.
know, I people think I'm a good person. People think, well of me.
Right.
And I can be loved and I can share love. And this was another process to help my heart open up
Yeah.
and not just, and love for myself as well as I can share love. So I have to admit that I was, attracted to this man
Hmm.
who made me feel good about myself. I mean, I hadn't felt a man a man's kindness toward me in almost 20 years, 15,
Hmm.
20 years. So it felt good. And I went back, and because they were having another retreat, and this was a different type. This was a themed retreat. This was called a death awareness retreat.
Oh.
And my dad had died suddenly the year before. And I thought, well, you know what? Maybe it's good to help me get a little more closure if I attend this retreat. Plus, I wanted to go back because it made me feel good. And I wanted to see this man that I met. So I went back for a second retreat. And this was a shorter retreat, no snowstorm this time.
Hmm.
And and it proved to be a very different experience. There was still a lot of meditation, but there was also a lot of fun and laughter. And because I volunteered to help in the kitchen since I was a
Hmm.
cook anyway, and I ended up probably talking too much and laughing too much in the kitchen that I got a little reprimanded for. But I needed that extra time there because by the end of that retreat, again, I got that same insight into impermanence, and I knew it was time that I knew this time I could go home and end my marriage.
Yeah. That's a profound revelation and a big change.
Oh my goodness, it was. That's why I had to write this story, because it was really miraculous. And I say too, there was almost a bit of divine intervention, because one thing I didn't mention that happened at the monastery, and I usually don't mention this unless people ask, but it really, honest to goodness, happened. I had visions.
Mm.
I was sitting there during the first retreat. I was sitting there in the meditation hall, and I saw in my mind's eye, but I could feel her, a woman behind my left shoulder.
Mm.
She had long black hair, she was dressed in a white robe, and I know she was there. She was definitely there. And I wanted to turn around and look at her. But I didn't dare do that, because in the meditation hall you're supposed to keep still and you're supposed to keep quiet. But I felt her touch me on my left shoulder, and then she was gone. And she actually showed up a couple other times during meditation. And one of the retreatants was an older woman, She was from Burma. I guess it was called Burma at the time. I think it's Myanmar now, but she was a former nun, and she approached me and said, you know the Kuan Yin is very close to you." And I'm like, "Who's Kuan Yin?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?" And she told me all about Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin is a bodhisattva of compassion. And she's a figure in Buddhism. She's revered in all the traditions. She has different names. And I was blown away. I was like, at first I thought I was hallucinating. I kept saying, "Oh, you're probably just hallucinating. You're not getting much sleep. You're waking up at 4 in the morning, all this meditation. You're probably just hallucinating." But when this former nun, this woman, kept telling me that Kuan Yin was close to me, and she said, "Look, come outside. I'll show you her statue," because there was a statue of her on the
Yeah.
grounds. And I ended up going to, and she said, "Go talk to her. She's so close to you. I can see her. She's very close to you. She's here to help you. She's here to help you." And I definitely needed
Wow.
help. So I went and I stood in front of that statue every day, even during the snowstorm. I like,
Trudged out there.
I trudged with snow up to my knees to go to the statue to talk to her and just ask her to please help me, to please stay with me. If you're here, just please, guide me, stay with me, give me strength. I kept saying, "Give me strength, and please, stay with me." And she was very instrumental in helping to open up my heart and giving me hope and faith and guiding me. And she's throughout the book. And people will say, "Oh, was she really there?" And yes, she was. She was
Wow.
really there.
It's 22 days in this monastery. I mean, led to some huge life changes. Do you feel like when you went home to your husband and decided it was time to leave that she stayed with you?
Oh yeah, she's there whenever I really look for her. I mean, I was so grateful to her that when I went home, I mean, there's statuary all over my house of Kuan Yin.
Mm.
I have to bring her close and remind myself of her. I have pictures. I mean, I'm looking around my room now. I mean, I have two pictures. There's oh, here she is. She's right there.
I
Um,
see. Yeah.
yeah. And because she is all about loving kindness and compassion, I mean, we can all bring that into our hearts. We need that so much, especially today, because we're so quick to judge. We're so quick to hate, and this isn't right, and and
Yeah.
blame people, and you have to keep searching your heart to the one of the bigger insights I got. Again, there were so many of them, but I was able one day to look around at all the other retreatants. This is, during the first retreat, and just feel such love for them, because I know that, or I realize that we're all in the same boat. We
Mhm.
all just want to be happy. We
Yeah.
all are searching for happiness, and we all suffer, and we all have problems that we're dealing with. So, how can you just not have compassion for the rest of the humans that are, just looking for all the same things you're looking for?
Right.
And I just, all the judgment and the hate in my heart, it just sort of melted away. How can you not have anything but love and compassion for everyone? We're all struggling. We're all doing the best we can and struggle. Well, maybe some people aren't doing the best they can, but we have to try to do the best we can. That was like the Buddha's last words before he died, his words to his disciples. A loose translation would be just strive on and do your best. Just try to do your best.
Mhm.
And if we can all remember that, I think the world would be a better place.
I agree.
Mhm. So, yeah, so many lessons, so many.
And so I'm
Mhm.
curious, so you leave after these 22 days that you spend there,
Mhm.
and you leave your husband. That's a huge life change. It's been 25 years since this took place. As you look
Mhm.
back at your life, what are some of the other changes that you carried with you?
Well, first, just let me say, when at the end of the 22 days when I did go back to leave, I was amazed at how easy it was
Mm,
and how calmly I did it. I mean, I was so used to fighting with my husband. Everything was a fight, everything was a struggle, everything ended in an argument. Or, he attacked me and I was just defending myself. But I was able to just very calmly, very gently look at him with all the loving kindness in my heart and say, I'm not doing this anymore.
mhm,
I'm just it's done. I'm not doing it and you're going to have to leave because I have a business here and you can go anywhere and
mhm.
get a job and so calm. It was so easy. And I expected a big fight. I expected a big, argument, but he could tell from the look on my face and the tone in my voice that the jig was up. He
Yeah.
no longer had control over me. He
Wow.
he he realized that. And so to get to, the other part of your question is just what other lessons in these years. Well, first, nothing can match what happened to me. I
Mhm.
mean, nothing can come close to that. And I carry that with me as much as I can into the future. But what I would say just being open. I would tell people, just be open to any possibilities, to all possibilities. And don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone because sometimes it takes stepping outside your comfort zone to find a better place. That's what I had to do and to be open to it. I could have gone to that monastery and like some people I saw like they didn't show up for meditation, they stayed in their rooms or they didn't
Mm.
participate in the talks or whatever. But always try to be open to possibilities. If you open yourself up, good things can come in.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you're also, bad things might come in. You can be vulnerable. People are so afraid to open themselves up, and don't say no. Say yes.
Yeah.
You know, say yes to life. That's a big lesson I've learned.
Right.
Don't resist things. Don't push things away. Um, just be open. And the other thing I'd say too is another lesson. And again, this is really from the Buddhist teachings. Is um, try not to have all these strong desires and cravings and want a lot of things. Oh, I want this to be like that, or oh, if I only had this, or if I only like lose 10 pounds, I'll be happy. Or if I just buy this dress, I'll be happy. Or, if I find the right man, I'll be happy, whatever. The more we want things and then we don't get them, it's going to cause suffering. So
Mhm.
try not to want things so much. The Buddha said that all suffering is caused by desires and craving and grasping.
Mhm.
So if we just like pull back a little bit and just go with the flow of life and not put conditions on them like, oh, if only I had more money, I'd be happy, or I need a bigger house, or whatever these desires are, is even when you get that, you're going to want something else.
Yeah.
It's not going to make you happy. So I would say be open and try not to grasp for things that you think are going to make you happy.
I think that's great advice. I'm curious,
Mhm.
do you continue to meditate?
Yeah, not as extensively as I
Mhm.
did
Right.
during the retreats, but I think especially now, I'm being drawn back because I think I just watch too much news and I get too depressed. I mean, I want to know what's going on in the world, but when I find that my mind is just full of all of these thoughts that are not healthy for me,
Yeah.
I pick up meditation a little bit more. Actually, the past couple of days, I've been sitting a little bit more. It's an on and off thing for me. I won't say I'm as consistent as I'd like to be. It goes in phases. But, it's always something that when I do practice it, I feel so much better after practicing.
Wonderful. That's a fascinating story and great lessons. I sincerely appreciate you joining me on Tell Me What It's Like to talk about your 22 days in a Buddhist monastery.
It's been my pleasure, and I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to chat with you. And I hope some people will get something from this.
Thanks to Laurie Jacobson for joining me on Tell Me What It's Like. Find out more about her experience in her book, which is linked in the show notes. If you found this episode interesting, please take a moment to drop a review in your podcast app so that other people might hear it. Next week, Suzanne Smith on helping to strengthen nonprofits to accelerate social change. I'm Stacey Rain. Thanks for listening.